You know what's really weird is it feels like people have simply just up and vanished. Like, I don't know where they've went to, but it seems like a lot of people in the world have simply just disappeared. Does anybody else feel like that? Like, a lot of people in the world have just vanished. You know, when you look at this whole thing where, a lot of employers can't find staff. Okay, is that because people are disappearing? Like, I know there's a lot of people in the world, but doesn't it feel like a lot of people have just sort of disappeared and you don't know where they went to? It's like they vanished and it's not even news. It's not even headlines. Like, we don't even know they've vanished. It's not like there's missing person reports. It's almost like we unconsciously didn't even realize that all these people just up and disappeared, Like, I feel like almost when you think about this, when you think about everything that's happened in the past 2 years, it makes you think, did we shift into an alternate reality? Like, have we gone into like a parallel universe where things are completely different now? And I'll tell you what, and I'm curious if this has happened to anybody else, because this has happened to me throughout my life. Every once in a while, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll feel like everything seems different. Like, everything about my house just doesn't feel right. And you go outside and you go around town and just, the things in the town feel different. It feels like this isn't the town I remember. This isn't the home I remember. Like, something about this seems different. Something seems strange, And this will last about a day, and then it's like after a day, things will go back to normal again. And I don't know if it's just that things did change and you forget about it after a day, or what's going on, but I noticed that, And I don't know if that happens to you guys, but I've noticed that happens to me a lot. But, when you think about the past, 10 years, things are so different now. Like, I remember when I reminisce, on the past, and I think about the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that, I remember things much differently than they are, today. And I remember people being much different. It seems like people were more friendly. It seems like people were more creative. There was a lot more, there's a lot better movies. There was a lot better music. Things were so awesome. And then it's like over the past 10 years, things have kind of just dwindled down and just everything seems to be weird, And, it's like, what's going on? I heard this interesting theory, though, about that, I guess, like, when we think about 2012, okay, there was supposed to be this apocalypse that happened when the Mayan calendar came to an end, which I was worried about that because I felt like the Mayans were very intelligent and very good with keeping time and very good with the alignment of the stars. And they had this great knowledge of predicting things. But their calendar essentially came to an end in 2012, in December, right? And everyone expected maybe there might be an apocalyptic event. But maybe it wasn't the apocalypse, the end of the world, that was supposed to happen. Maybe it was that we were supposed to shift to another dimension. And perhaps that when December 21st, 2012 happened, it wasn't the end of the world. It was the end of us living in one reality and shifting to another reality. And I know that's pretty deep, and I know that's pretty intense. But when you think about it, it feels like it's true. It feels like it's right. Another theory that I had is that in 2019, there was these lights that appeared all over the sky in New York City. And I don't know if you guys remember this or not, or heard about it, but I followed this very closely, did a couple shows on it, and I actually talked to a witness who experienced it firsthand, up close and personal. And he said that it was more than just lights in the sky. He said, electronics stopped working. Their phones wouldn't work. Cars wouldn't work. People were like freaking out in the streets. He said there was, like this strange hum. And he started to feel very nauseous and sick. And if you've seen these lights though, they're really crazy. It's really something else, because people seen these blue luminescent lights in the sky almost like 50 to 100 miles away in New Jersey. They were seeing these lights over New York City, off in the distance. And they had come forward and said this was just a transformer, but it seemed like something more. And from the witness that I spoke to, he felt like something was going on. When we think of alternate realities, it's very complex. But the best way I can describe parallel universes or alternate realities is like this. Let's say you go to the store today, and as a result of you going to the store, you meet this person, this manager of the store, and he offers you a job at the store, and you take that job. Well, that one event leads to you becoming manager of the store. And then that allows you to branch off and start your own business. And then you become very successful because of that. And you meet your significant other, and you have children, and you have a family now. Well, let's say you didn't go to the store today. You chose not to go to the store today. You were thinking about it, but you decided against it. And because you didn't go to the store today, right, you didn't meet this guy that would change your life and would set forth all these events that would happen in your life. So if you don't meet that person and you don't take this job, right, then that creates a whole alternate timeline and a whole nother series of events, right? You now don't have that wife, you don't have that family, you don't have that life that would have happened had you followed that series of events. Now you follow a new series of events that lead you down a much different path. So therefore, for every outcome, there has to be essentially another outcome. And that is what alternate realities are. This is what parallel universes are. Is basically, they are the alternative outcomes to every decision we make, everything that happens in the world. There is coincidentally an alternate outcome. And that is the best way to describe these alternate universes. And, Albert Einstein, he even theorized that there was another universe that mirrored this universe, and that it could be traversed through wormholes. Now, it's a little different than some of the other theories I've heard out there, but, if you have even Albert Einstein believing in it, maybe there's something to it. And one of the things that comes with these whole, alternate realities or paranormal universes, parallel universes, is the Mandela effect. And I'm sure a lot of you might be familiar with this, but basically the Mandela effect is something that was started a couple years ago, back in 2000s, where people thought that Nelson Mandela had died in prison. They didn't realize that he had got out of prison and he'd done all these different, successful things in Africa. And so because of that, people remembered an alternate reality, and this created the Mandela effect. And there have been many people who subscribe to this theory that they remember events or certain things much differently than they actually are. And, there's several examples of this. For instance, the Berenstain or the Bernstein Bears. There's also Pikachu, right? Everybody that I know that grew up in the 90s, they remember Pikachu with a little black strip on the end of his tail, okay? But Pikachu doesn't have that black strip on the end of its tail. It's all yellow. His tail is completely yellow. But a lot of people from the 90s remember it that way. There's several movies where people remember the plot lines different. I know I've watched a lot of movies where, watching this, I'm like, I don't remember any of this, but I've seen this movie like 100 times. And there's several scenes and like several things that happen. And it's like, I remember this movie completely different. But going back to that whole Pikachu thing, I actually remember when I would play Pokemon Blue or Red version on my Game Boy. I specifically remember, and I think I played it like 4 years ago. I played it on my Game Boy because I found my Game Boy in my games, and I was playing it, and I remember that when you caught a Pikachu, it said, and this was a Blue and Red version from back in the 90s when it first came out, right? I remember that when you caught a Pikachu, it would give a description of what the Pikachu was, and it would tell, about this Pokemon. And one of the things that it said was that the black spot on its tail was where it would draw the electricity from. It was like a grounding that would draw in electricity and allow it to use electricity to battle other Pokemon, right? And I remember that specifically in the description when you caught a Pikachu. And I actually seen that like 4 years ago, and that made me think like, it's crazy that he doesn't have this black spot on his tip, because it says that in the game, And, dude, I mean, there's just like one of the other things, it's funny because I remember specifically that Ninja Turtles, if you guys have watched Ninja Turtles, I used to be a big Ninja Turtles fan. And I remember that in Ninja Turtles, the origin story was that there were these teenagers who were turned into turtles. And that's how they became the Ninja Turtles. And that Master Splinter had found the turtles once they had turned into, or these teenagers once they had turned into turtles, and that's why they were called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because they were once teenagers. And I specifically remember that being the origin story. And, obviously that's not the origin story. If you follow Ninja Turtles now, it's completely different. And, I've been schooled on this several times about the true origin story of the Ninja Turtles. But I remember that being the origin story to the Ninja Turtles, but it's not. And I actually found some evidence of the Mandela effect that you guys can look up yourself, which is, I think it's evidence to suggest that the Mandela effect may be more than just a simple theory, okay? So one of the Mandela effect theories is that if you know the Monopoly guy, everybody remembers the Monopoly guy with the monocle, the eyeglass monocle. But he's never had a monocle, which is weird because like so many people remember this. And I found proof that he possibly did have a monocle, because if you watch the second Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, right, which came out in the 90s, you see this skit where Jim Carrey approaches this guy who looks like the Monopoly guy, and it's supposed to be a joke at Monopoly, right? And he picks this guy up, and he says, "Do not pass go, do not collect $200." Well, this guy clearly has a monocle, which is interesting because this movie, before the Mandela effect even came about, this movie is making reference to the fact that the Monopoly guy has a monocle. So it's proof to me that in the 90s, we did acknowledge that the Monopoly guy had a monocle, and now we don't. And now this information has completely disappeared. So that makes me think that there is a possibility we have shifted into another reality. Now, you have to understand, I actually did a video on this, that there are other dimensions that exist. And there are other dimensions of space and time. You see, in the second dimension, only certain things can happen in that dimension. And in the third dimension, only specific things can happen in that dimension. Okay? And in these other dimensions, specific things can happen, and there's different laws of physics that apply. Now, I want you to think of a video game, okay? If you think of, let's say, Mario for the regular Nintendo NES, okay? When you think of Mario, it was a 2D game. It was two-dimensional, okay? You could not make a game like Red Dead Redemption in 2D, right? It wouldn't work. But when we started making video games in third dimension, in 3D, right, we were able to come up with games like Red Dead Redemption. We were able to come up with these open world games and make them very realistic, right? But we couldn't do that with 2D. We couldn't do that with a two-dimensional video game. You see? And that's the difference between these dimensions, where different rules apply. And I believe that there is a fifth dimension, and in this dimension is where things, these alternate realities exist, where things that defy the natural laws of physics exist, and anything is possible because it follows a different set of rules in this dimension. And there's things that we can't even comprehend that exist in the fifth dimension. And I've often thought that when we go to sleep at night and we dream in the fifth dimension. Our minds essentially travel through time and space to this fifth dimension. And this is why we experience dreams. This is where the dream world exists, where there are all these different possibilities in alternate realities. And so essentially we are traveling to other realities in our dreams where these events have happened in other parallel universes. And, I think this is possible because when we sleep, we go into such a relaxed state and that there are no distractions. Our mind is completely clear and open, and this allows us the ability to travel to another dimension where we experience dreams, the dream world, if you will, and we experience other realities, and we are experiencing other universes in another dimension where other possibilities exist. And I think that even in this fifth dimension, there's a possibility that things like cartoons, movies, the Marvel Universe, where these things are real life and they exist, because in this fifth dimension, we don't follow normal laws of physics. And in that, there could be this world that exists that's a cartoon world that is made up of two-dimensional or sort of different effects that make this world exist. And perhaps the reason we come up with some of these great movies, some of these great stories, some of these great video games is because we are collecting thoughts from another dimension, from another reality. And from time to time, we are able to remember thoughts from another dimension, from another reality. When we travel, when we sleep, when we dream, we are able to come up with these ideas, essentially because they do exist in another dimension of time and space. And that's how we have things that seem like so perfect, movies that seem just amazing, and we gravitate towards them because these things exist in other parts of time and space, in other dimensions. So it really makes you think. And like I said, it's very complicated when you start talking about different dimensions of space and time. I've done a video on it. If you want to check it out, feel free to go ahead and check it out, and it's really interesting. I did a diagram to kind of explain how the different dimensions work, and that might give you a better idea of how that all comes together and, how we possibly could be shifting into other dimensions and alternate realities. But yeah, that's just something that I've always speculated, that we have this ability to travel to other dimensions. And what's interesting is, there's a lot of religions that believe in meditation, and they believe through meditation that you can essentially leave your body and travel to other parts of the world, to other parts of the universe. And there's a whole thing called astral travel, where people leave their bodies and they believe they could travel anywhere in the universe or anywhere in existence in other dimensions. They can. There are people. There's this, TikTok thing that's been going around, I guess, where people believe that they can actually travel to a world where Harry Potter actually exists, and they could travel to Hogwarts and experience Harry Potter because it does exist in another dimension, in an alternate reality. So there's definitely a lot to this. There's a lot you can look into with this, but it gets, like I said, very complicated and complex when you try and explain it and figure it out. But but with these other things that I wanted to talk about is